So you have an agency, you want to grow it to 100K a month, and you want to do it as quickly as possible. You want to grow your agency, and then you want to start scaling your agency. If you're nodding your head, yes, I'm going to show you the quickest, fastest way to grow your agency and to scale your agency. And the reason it's the quickest and fastest is because we're going to do it now in 10 to 15 minutes, and I'm going to show you what everyone skips, avoids, or spends too long on. First thing to understand is there's a reason you can't grow past 100K a month or 50K a month. And that's because you aren't currently growing past 100K a month. Because if you could do it right now, the current you with the current business model, systems and the processes, but most importantly, you yourself, the agency owner, then you would have done it. If we can agree on that, which is quite a reasonable agreement, then we get to the next layer. And that is your internal operating system. And that is you, the entrepreneur. And I want you to imagine that is everything that defines you. So number one is your identity. And you're going to keep hitting the same wall. Doesn't matter what you do, unless you first start with your identity. And as I put here, there's a reason you're not currently at 100K a month, just to use a benchmark. And that is partly informed by your identity. And this is where true deep transformation happens. It happens top down from the identity level. So you may see yourself as the technician and not the operator. That is an identity. It's who I am. I am X who. So for example, I am an agency owner who, and then that's your identity label. And then that dictates your beliefs and thoughts, as you'll see, and it runs downstream. In this case, you're running the business as the person who got you here. The one who does the work, manages the clients, solves the problems, but 100K a month requires a different identity. I think it's pretty safe to assume that you know if you need to grow and scale your agency, that you need to become a different person. If you don't accept that and you disagree with that, then it's not going to happen. If you agree that you need to become or you need to be a different person, and then all we're waiting for is time, then let's start with your identity. So right now, if you see yourself as a technician, we're going to change your identity to an operator. Now, you may say, Jordan, no, it's not that simple. Like changing my identity takes time. It does take time, but it can happen a lot quicker than people realize. Then we get to your beliefs. Now, one of your key beliefs is going to be you believe scaling requires sacrifice you're not willing to make. What I mean here is there is a conscious or a subconscious belief which is going to not attract the reality that you want. And that reality is growing your agency to 100K a month and beyond. You may believe more revenue equals more stress. Good help doesn't exist. If I'm doing it, I won't be doing it right. Here, what I want you to get at is imagine you've got a wall just here and you're just hitting against that wall, or a ceiling, hitting against the ceiling. That is your beliefs, and above it is your identity. And I want you to break through the wall and through the ceiling. Your beliefs will act as a wall. And the great part about beliefs, if no one's ever told you, is that we get to choose them, and they can be disempowering or empowering. Once we've understood that, we then get to your emotions. Now, what's most likely happen is that emotionally you are getting hijacked when things get tough. Best example is a client leaves. I want you to imagine, and bear with me, I apologize for pulling you through this emotionally, that your best paying client, the one that pays on time, pays up front, leaves tomorrow. If you actually imagine that right now, and the brain doesn't know the difference between something that's imagined and something that actually happened, you're going to feel some sensation in your body, and you will label that as fear. So client leaves, panic, team issue, control spiral, revenue dips, anxiety takes over. The bigger the game, the more dysregulated you become. The key part here about emotions is that one, they sit below beliefs, it sits below identity. The second is that there are emotional patterns. There are levels of emotions because emotions are just energy in motion. Then we get to your intentions. Now, this part is key because you can't actually control your goals, but you can control your intentions. And your stated goals don't actually match your actual priorities. You say you want to scale, but your actions reveal you want safety, control, comfort, misaligned intentions, create friction that shows up as self-sabotage. The biggest thing that holds anyone back from growing and then scaling their business is self-sabotage. Now, there may be good reasons to sabotage the self, because maybe you don't truly want to grow and you don't want to scale your agency to 100K a month. It just sounds nice and you want to do it because everyone else is telling you to do it. And in that case, already within a few minutes of this video, you have learned how to grow and scale your agency to 100K a month because you've decided I don't want to do it. And that's great. Click away, stop watching the video. You've made a decision which could have took you months, years, even decades, and a lot of pain and suffering to realize. But if you do want to grow and scale your agency to 100K a month and beyond, we then get to the bit which everyone focuses on, which is the visible line. And that is what you see, what you feel, what you hear. And this is where everyone looks, which is the actions. And then finally, the results. But if we briefly look at the actions, you keep avoiding the moves that would actually grow it. Now, here you need to get honest with yourself. If you want to grow your agency, which is basically just throwing shit on a wall and seeing what sticks, and then scale your agency, which is finding out what works and then just putting in more inputs and getting out outputs. That's scale, right? That's Jordan's definition of scale. If you want to do that, there will be moves, actions required for you to make, or your team to make daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, even annually. And if those are not happening, especially from yourself, then there is some form of avoidance. For example, you know you need to sell more, market more, higher, but you don't. You stay busy with client work, admin, getting things ready. Now, there is a pattern in your iOS, your internal operating system, for each of these types of actions. Same for your intentions, same for your beliefs, same for your identity. But either way, actions matter. But as you'll see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 layers before we get to the 5th. And then we have your results. Now, this is a key part of results, is you're probably measuring the wrong scorecard. You're chasing revenue instead of profit. Counting clients when you should count margins, celebrating wins that don't compound. Either way, as we look at this line here from the top to the bottom, there is something that needs to change, or should I say there is someone who needs to change, and that is yourself. And in particular, I'm referring to your iOS, your internal operating system. Provided all of that has been changed consistently, sustainably, we then get finally to the real problem. And this is the real problem. And I have found this to be the real meta problem, having scaled my agency to multi-six figures, been in the agency space for 10 years. I have friends that make 6, 7, 8, even 9 figures from agencies, or at least they had an agency at some point. I've had all the conversations just to understand those that grew, those that didn't grow, those that scaled, and those that didn't scale. And this is the key part, which is they kept solving downstream when the problem was upstream. And when they finally realized the problem was upstream, or they worked with someone like myself who knew it was upstream, and they guided them through the process, which all my customers and all my clients get by starting at the top level, which is identity-based transformation, the rest takes care of itself. Now, when I say takes care of itself, I could say you don't have to change your business. You don't have to implement any new funnels, any new systems, any new processes, hire any new team. That may be true, but it may be hard for you to believe right now. But what does happen is that you start and reason from the first principle of transformation. And transforming and growing your business is a lot like transforming and growing yourself. And you are the bottleneck to your business, and you always will be, especially in an agency. So we start by transforming you, the entrepreneur, the agency owner. But either way, why do we focus on results and actions first? Why don't we focus on the identity? Then the beliefs, then the emotions, then your intentions, and then we get to your actions and results. Because if we absolutely nail and align on the identity, beliefs, emotions, intentions, which are required for you to break through your revenue ceiling, then we set up the aligned actions and the deferred actions, and all of that is in alignment. You have no choice but to hit your goal of 100K a month. Now, it may not happen as fast as you want, and that's all about time compression, which is why we work with coaches and consultants. But those are the 7 reasons why you can't grow past 100K a month. It's not your funnel. It's not your market. It's not your offer. It's not your business model. You can find a counterexample of anyone who has disproven that they can scale and grow an agency with your model, with your market, with your type of team. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't change your team, you don't change your systems, you don't change your funnel. But why not start with just a simple reframe and look at your identity, your beliefs, your emotions, and follow yourself down the causal operating sequence. Start with your identity, start with your beliefs, then your emotions, and then your intentions. Now, if you're watching this video, you're probably asking, well, how do I change my identity? How do I change my beliefs? How do I regulate my emotions? And how do I clarify my intentions? All of those are great questions, and I'll keep it super simple for you. You've got two choices. You can click the link below, take the assessment, and it'll answer it for you. Or you can start by just imagining who you need to become and then write out their identity, their I am statements. You're going to write out the beliefs that you're going to choose to believe. You're going to write out the emotions that they have on a consistently daily basis. And then you're going to clarify what their intentions actually would be. And then you're going to write down the actual actions that they would follow. And that's it. Because if not, you will stick with number 7, which is keep solving downstream when the problem is upstream. Because, as I've said before, there is a causal chain and it runs from your identity all the way to your results, but it starts with identity first. As always, take care.